Yes. Yes. So, farming. So this is what I was thinking. So just so everybody knows, I just really started using it for farming this year. I didn't farm before, but I was like, thinking about like newer agents, one of the biggest things that people say are like, well, I don't know nobody. But how do you go from knowing nobody to, having a farm, right? And I'm not going to go into details about how to determine your farm because at the end of the day, it's a group of people geographically located together. So if you wanted to go and be like, oh, I'm going to go pick this farm over there that has like $400,000 houses, like that's your choice, whatever. I don't care. If you just are like me, I just want to be able to ride a golf cart to all my listings. Like, so wherever I live, that's my farm. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so that's not really what we're going to get into, Lily, because you're not in real estate. You have two choices in this regard, right? You could maybe partner with the real estate agent who is farming, and then you could be their sponsor, one of their sponsors. Um and for the agents, if you have these kinds of sponsors, like if you were to do some door knocking activity, that sponsor needs to go too. That sponsor gets to participate in that activity too. If we're calling the neighbors, the sponsor can participate in that activity. The sponsor can participate in events. The sponsor can help with paying for mailers, right? So just keep your mind open to like those kinds of things. And then the other thing is, and this applies to everybody, is while we have geographic farms, pretty much everything you do in a geographic farm can be applied to a virtual farm. And the virtual farm is your group of people, whether it's your sphere,
Mhm.
if it's it could be so you could have many farms like your sphere. Then I'm a runner, so I could have like my running people. Then I'm in a sorority, so I could have like my Greek farm. And then all of them could be in a bigger farm. But everything you do with a geographic farm can be done with the virtual farm. It just could be more when it comes to mailers, maybe more expensive. So yeah, so I just want to go ahead and throw that piece out there. And so I'm gonna grab my book real quick, you guys. So while we get started, has anybody done any farming before?
I'm doing some farming.
Okay, what are
Yeah.
you doing, Sherry?
So far, it's sending out a letter to about 300 people that I've hand.
Okay.
But then I've also done very targeted, I don't know if I'd call it farming, but very targeted letter to say, hey, my client is looking for a house in your
Okay.
neighborhood, just like yours. So,
Okay. Anybody else done farming? Everyone's
Actually,
go ahead.
I think now that I'm listening to what farming is, I think I'm doing that without knowing that that's what I'm doing. I have a friend who sells in like health insurance, and she downloaded like this thick of people around my neighborhood. And last night, I have them in my living room, but last night I'm sending out this postcards just saying something like after this all this is behind us, where is the first place you want to travel, question mark.
Yep.
Then I say
Yep.
beach or city, and then I say call me, and it's all handwritten. And I'm thinking, I have that stack and I'm not done. I'm thinking, how much is this going to cost me as far as the stamps, because it's not your normal small stamp, it's kind of a large one, a
Mm,
big envelope, but it's a postcard. But I
that
guess
is definitely a farming
that's farming,
activity.
right?
That's a
Okay, I
farming activity.
didn't even know.
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess I
Yep.
am doing that.
Yeah. So so the fact that you're here, you're at least interested in everyone who's here is at least interested in farming. And so some of the agents, besides Lily already gave us one. What are some other activities that we do for farming?
love you, bye. You too. Bye.
Nobody?
Sorry, I missed that.
What are some like farming, what are traditional geographical farming activities?
Like postcards or something, I would think, right?
Yep,
Yards
that's it.
hosting like neighborhood yard sale.
So events, like community events. Okay, so farming is a very layered approach, and basically you love, well, you don't love. In typical farming, you're just putting your information out there. So it might be like the postcards Lily is sending. We could be doing just listed, just sold. Do you want to sell a house? But normally there's monthly mailers that go out. My team leader does a monthly newsletter that she sends out. And then hold on a second. Well, someone type and Draga can hear me, but I can't put you on video. I'm sorry, Draga, but you can listen, so that's important. Um but then like community events, but it's like an approach that you're basically just trying to get these strangers to like you, know you, and I would say, I say like you, but really just recognize you, right? If they think about buying or selling, that you want them to be like, oh, they have the refrigerator magnet or they have the calendar. So whatever, they have X, Y, or Z, and they send us. So one of my friends is farming traditionally, and someone called her and was like, yeah, my friend's looking to buy a house, but we didn't know anybody, but I told her she should try you because you sent us some stuff every month, and so that's more the traditional route. So thinking about farming from a 7L perspective is, how do we move these people from strangers to friends, right, within the 7L? Like, what would your 7L like farming strategy look like, right? And how can we tweak some of those? So I hope all of you don't plan to look at me like deer in headlights, and you plan to put on your 7L hats and help each other. Like, I'm working through this just like you would be working through this right now, because I have no solid success stories out of it yet. But what I can tell you is, you do need to know, it helps to know your market, right? To know how many houses sold, like what you're looking at, just to have an idea. But remember, with our 7L approach, we're going to be looking at referrals. So even if no house is sold in that area, you could still get business because they're going to be referring out if as you do the approach. So going through the pyramid, we have advertising, which I would say is probably you're just listed, you're just sold, maybe some Facebook target marketing. But that's not really, I guess for that, the idea would be like, how do you change the content to be more 7L?
Well, is it kind of like who else, who do you know that's looking to get into the neighborhood?
So kind of like asking like from a referral perspective. Is everyone familiar with the big ugly postcard? The big yellow postcard? Oh, okay. Well, it's a yellow postcard that Michael talks about, and it is basically asking for referrals instead of just saying like, hey, do you want to sell? Do you want to buy? It's just like, we're looking to help people. We're looking for people who are selling. We're looking for people who are buying. Like, we need your help, so that's a way to do it. Then there's direct mail. So that applies right there too, right? With direct mail. What Sherry just said. And what else can you get into in that space, right? Direct mail. Newsletters.
Yeah.
What kind of content? Yep, exactly, Sherry. You're the bestest. But yeah, like, right, we want to move them up. So we can invite them to events. We can invite them to seminars. We can invite them. So my neighborhood is about to get a business association. It's just going to come out of thin air.
You're doing it?
I'm just going to invite them to like a quarterly Zoom.
Good idea.
And the idea came because I was talking to a woman in the neighborhood and she's like, yeah, we should do this like monthly or quarterly. And I was like, that's a great idea. We should invite all the businesses. Right. But
Mhm.
then staying in line with that, right? Well, all the businesses, they answer their phone. When you walk in, they say hi. Like if you're going to door knock, you door knock businesses, right?
Mm.
Then there's your one-on-one opportunities.
Mhm. So the
You
business, are you looking for people in your neighborhood that own businesses? Is that what you're doing?
If they own, well, first of all, like so in my neighborhood, there are businesses in it.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have like a planned community where it's just 500 houses with a
Okay.
fence around it.
Okay.
Right. So, but if you do have a planned community with a fence around it, then maybe you're looking for people who either own business. I say that they are business owners or professionals.
Mhm.
You know, so they might not own the business, but they're a dentist looking for clients,
Mhm.
or they're an attorney looking for clients,
Mhm.
kind of thing, or a hairdresser,
Yep.
barber,
Yep.
you know. But then you pull them out, and then when you start to get into, you know, okay, so then the idea becomes like, we're going to build each other's businesses with the people in this community
Mhm.
through the 7L approaches, right? So now you're coming to help them, help you, help the neighbors.
Oh, brilliant. I love this, Monique. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
But you
This
see,
is
but you
awesome.
see what you see how you can like layer all these
Yeah.
things, and it's all the same people,
Yeah.
right? So the newsletter, I have a picture of it that I can, when I send out the follow-up, I'll send it, the email, but going back to the direct mail section, my team leader sends out a trifold newsletter every single month. But she gets it almost net zero on it for cost because she gets her sponsors to advertise in it. You know, so for a low price, they go and they get in front of like 3,500 people a month.
Mm.
I think the max price is $800 for like a whole third of a page, and it's like I think it's like 11 by 6 or something like that. But they can get a whole page.
Hmm.
It just goes out monthly, and in there you could be putting your invitations to like your all yap events or your community events. So one thing I decided I was going to do is for my all yap events, those are my community events. So I'm just going to invite my friends to my neighborhood.
Mhm.
I'm going to try to host, I would say host the event close to your neighborhood if it's not in your neighborhood. Like ice cream social, you can bring an ice cream truck to the neighborhood. You don't have to go all the way to like a parlor if you want. I'm doing the Great Girl Scout cookie giveaway. Probably going to do that at a park. Or if I can find, there's a diner here that closes at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I may see if I can use their parking lot. You know, but keeping it close, right? Keeping it close. And then you can also feature, if you have your charity of choice, you could feature that. Sherry, I know you have a give back program that can be, you know, sent information out.
Mhm.
And then electronic communication. What can we do with using electronic communication to help make these strangers our friends?
Well,
So
then
I
we
did
get them
a
in.
little bit with Nextdoor, like
Mhm.
especially some people that I had met in the neighborhood. I just knew their name and I knew what street, like I was walking through my neighborhood, what street I met them on. So a couple of them I might have seen them in front of their house, but then I just reached out on Nextdoor, like, oh, I just wanted to reach out to you. Maybe I'll send you a Facebook invitation too. Feel free to accept or not if you're, you know. So I did it very casually, and I've made some good connections like that. And now they see me more often. They're getting to know my family, my business posts, and stuff like that.
So if you're not on Nextdoor, that's the way. That's one tool that Greta mentioned. And then there's Facebook that Greta mentioned. So there's the Facebook invite. What else could be done on Facebook?
Messaging.
Groups.
What'd you say, Sherry?
Groups. Get a group of those people going.
Exactly. Like my neighborhood didn't have a group. So I just created it. Like I said, you just create stuff out of thin air. You can create, so then you can have your business association group, that can be on there on the Facebook. I don't do Instagram that much, so I don't really know what you could do with that. But from the looks of it, you guys aren't big on Instagram either. So nobody was like, I know. But yeah, so then, so Toro Sells Homes group, right? I'm in there. And I listened to her talk one day, and she was saying that's where she puts her event invitations at. So, like, once you build it up, you can get them in there, right? And then there's also direct messaging, right? So, one thing I'm doing, just so you guys know, Draga, I can send you like just Google create Facebook, and the instructions will come up. Facebook group, and the instructions will come up from Facebook. But I'll try to send that link as well. So Nextdoor lets you send 10 messages a day before they put you in timeout. So what I've been doing is I created a message that I've sent to 10. I copied and pasted a list of names, and then I send a message a day, 10 messages a day, to invite them to the Great Girl Scout Cookie giveaway. Now, I will say I sent a lot of messages and I have had few responses. I think partly because a lot of people don't really get on Nextdoor. But my goal is to at least get through the list once. So it's not that I didn't try. So that's one way.
There's a list on Nextdoor that you tapped into.
What'd you say, Marilyn?
You can find a list of everyone on Nextdoor in your neighborhood.
Oh,
from
yeah.
Nextdoor. Oh.
Yeah, it'll say, like, if you scroll down to the bottom, it'll say like neighbors or something. You click on
I
it
never looked
and
at
it's a
that.
whole list, and it tells you what street they live on too.
Oh, good.
Cool.
So I just put it in Excel, and I just, like, every day I put the date next to it that I sent the message, and I just do 10 a day.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
That's
I'm
cool.
gonna
You know,
do that.
I'm lucky that many years ago when Nextdoor was just getting started, I created the neighborhood for my neighborhood. So I'm the admin, but I have not tapped into Nextdoor like I could. I need to do better at that.
And I think, just from my experience so far, is that nobody is using it really as a tool. Like, there's an agent that's advertising on it, but as far as like actively going in there and making sure you comment on this or post on this and welcome new people to the neighborhood, like, after my cookie event, I'm gonna have an ice cream social. So everybody that's new to the neighborhood, I'll be like, hey, welcome. I look forward to meeting you at the ice cream social on this day. Even though it's 2 or 3 months away, like, hey, you're invited to the neighborhood. They don't know that we didn't have a neighborhood ice cream social. They just got here, kind of thing, And then also, you can be the one who invites the neighbors to it.
Yes.
Because most people don't have it. So, like, if Sherry was like sending out a mailer, she could send out a mailer that invited everybody to join her on Nextdoor.
And as the admin, what's really cool is I can see which houses don't have anybody in it, and Nextdoor will even send it for me, which is cool.
Yeah, we actually can see it too as users.
Can you? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, Draga, I do not know if it's in Canada or not, but Canada probably has something similar. If it doesn't have it, I would imagine. But you can do the same thing. You can kind of cultivate the same experience with Facebook, but you would have to invite the neighbors to the Facebook group, and then just use it as a resource. So that's one place electronically. Then we talked about Facebook groups, Facebook messages as well. Newsletters, like electronic newsletters or neighborhood newsletter. That is another way. Oh, there's Wendy. You're on mute, Wendy.
I'm here, sorry.
But that's another electronic communication you can use to pass out information. Let them know about things in the neighborhood. If there's a new construction of a business coming, or the city's doing something and they have a dump, donate, and shred day, you can use other people's events to get your people out there, coordinate community type stuff.
Mhm.
What about handwritten notes?
Mm-hmm.
Do
What
those.
can you do? What can you do to get in your farm, for your farm? What are some ideas?
I don't know. Invites. That's all I can think of.
How about welcome to the neighborhood?
Oh yeah, that definitely.
Or are they
And
celebrating a milestone anniversary in their house? 10 years, 5 years, 50 years? So home
around the
anniversaries.
around the holidays, or even people decorate for all kinds of things now, but just like I really loved your house decorations. I had this thought around
Oh,
Halloween, and I didn't follow through with it, but I'm gonna start.
I
Next year.
almost did that to someone last year. Actually, I could do that for spring. I saw someone putting in a garden, and I loved every time I drove by. I liked watching it grow, and I never did write her a note, but I always wanted to. That's a good idea.
awesome.
Yeah, so little things like that. And as you get to know them, you're gonna get birthdays and possibly like wedding anniversaries, or and things like that. And I don't know like how big your neighborhood would be or not, that you decide to make your boundaries, but you don't need every neighbor,
Mhm.
right? It's just the ones that you reach out to that raise their hand and say, I'm interested.
Mhm.
So for my Girl Scout cookie giveaway, one of the questions is, do you want to be invited to other community events? And if they say yes, that's them saying, hey, I want to be in relationship, and to some degree, you know? And so with that, so we have invitations, welcome to the neighborhood. Those who are familiar with like send out cards,
Mhm.
and the 2-pack brownie that everybody talks about, that's a cute thing to do if they're welcome. And you can welcome renters and new owners.
Mhm.
And I'd recommend waiting, giving them some, because sometimes people do stuff on their house before they move in. So if it was on your calendar, that's like, if they moved in between 1 January and 31 January, then they get a note in like March, so that everyone's been in their house at least 30 days, kind of thing, to be like, oh, welcome to the neighborhood. And then it could just be a little card that says, hello, welcome to the neighborhood, kind of thing.
Why is
I
that?
just invite, huh?
Why do you advise waiting?
Because people don't move in right away. Like, most people will move into their house, but if they're doing some type of reno on the house, like, we don't know because we didn't sell it to them. So you don't want to send
Sorry.
something that they're not getting, or they buy it and they're not PCS. Well, they're military and they're not arriving for a month, or a couple weeks or something like that. So I signed on my house and went out of town.
Yeah,
Like, I went from the signing to the airport. I didn't come back to my house for like 10 days.
you're right on that, Monique, because I remember when I bought my house, I was inundated with people trying to sell me stuff, including real new realtors, introducing themselves to me. And when you're moving, you're so overwhelmed as it is. So I found that to be more of a nuisance for people
Mm,
soliciting me than help. I think if it,
That's a good point.
yeah, I
yeah,
think that
Lily.
it would have helped me if the people that solicited me, like the alarm person, would have waited at least a month or 3 months while I'm settled in. And then I probably would have listened to him or her. But just like the week of, welcome to the neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's too much. I'm
Yeah.
stressed, leave me alone, especially if you're single and, you're living by
Trying
yourself.
to figure it
It's
out.
like, yeah. So that's a good point. As from a non-real estate person, I tell you that happened to me, and I turned everything off because I was stressed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then also, Greta, just for our own personal sanity and schedules, if you send it at 1 March, the person who closed on 31 January has been in there for 30 days. So that you were not like, oh, every day we're not getting the MLS update to say, oh, they closed, let's send them a handwritten note kind of thing. And depending on your farm, it may not be that big of a deal. My neighborhood closes about 10 houses a month.
Wow.
So it's not a huge deal. Workload wise, but it's just for me to help like keep it like blocked, Now if you're closing like 10 houses a day, then you might want to find a different system for yourself.
How do you find out that there's new renters that moved in?
The MLS, like if there's any rentals that are posted.
Oh, that it got rented.
Mhm.
Okay, I looked at that.
Yeah, it'll just
Make sure you're still talking to neighbors. Like I found out the two condos around here are both going to be new renters this week, actually, just because one of the neighbors was telling me.
Mm-hmm. And then we're specifically talking about handwritten notes right now, but well, Greta, like if you wanted to send something like right when they moved in, like an introductory, like who you are kind of thing, but then like this is freaking trash day, this is recycle day, this is your nearest fire department, this is the best Chinese, whatever it is, like to pass it on or even drop it off. Like I said, my neighborhood, like I want to be able to get there on a golf cart, so I could drop mine off. It's 10 drop-offs a month, right? But yeah, so I just wrote over the weekend, I wrote 100 notes out of necessity. And I sent it to everybody who bought a house last year that was owner occupied. And I was like, in lieu of fresh baked cookies, you're invited to the Great Girl Scout cookie giveaway. And then I enclose the information, right? So that's, thinking about the book and how that woman wrote 350 notes to apartment complex kind of thing. So if you do have apartment complex or something like that in your farm that happens to just be in those boundaries, that's something you could only farm an apartment complex if you wanted to. So, but yeah, I think.
Sorry, Monique. I'm planning
You're
to
good.
do that to get into my new area. There's some new apartments, so I thought that would be a good way to farm and then invite them to my event up there. That's in another state that I need to farm. So
Yep.
Thought that might work.
Yep, exactly. So just thinking about now we're getting into a different like area. We're getting into the influential zone, where we all really want to be. And so we've used the information zone to get us in front of the people, maybe on a more systematic, recurring way for like the electronic communication, direct mail, and advertising. So we have the handwritten notes that kind of bridge the gap, gives them a little bit of warm fuzzy to come out and meet us. But then there's phone calls. So phone calls, if you don't have the assumption is you don't have their phone number, you don't know who they are yet, right? So we can use resources that give us phone numbers for geo prospecting. I think Cole Realty and Red X are two that are very prominent. For Red X, I use them to get mine. They will give you the phone up to 3 or 4 phone numbers for 2,000 people for $50 a month. And then you can turn it off after you get what you need, right? So yeah, and then you can call to invite, you could text to invite, that's more in the electronic, but that is a way to get to people. Of course, some of the phone numbers are bad, some are wrong, people have moved, it's just a data source. RedX for an additional $50 a month will give you a list of email addresses. And so I use the email addresses and sent out like an electronic invitation for my cookie giveaway, right? I don't think I've gotten anybody. One person responded and said, I don't live there anymore. I think one person signed up, but then I had a lot of bounce backs that I had to clean up. And there's a resource to clean them up. I just don't know what it is. Someone else used it. Um, and then so that's kind of where the phone calls fall in the beginning. But as you get to know people and you get them to stuff, then you're going to call them to, um, you're not going to have 10,000 people on your list, right? And so you can put them into your hour of power. You can just put them on like a list of people to call. Um, if they're hitting milestone anniversaries with their house. And then most importantly, the invitation,
Mhm.
right? That you're doing whatever, whether you're inviting them to your all yap or you're doing like a community event, because eventually they will become, some of them will become your clients or they'll become your ambassadors and your champions, right? Because all these people that live in your sphere are connected to other spheres. And that's where you're really trying to be, is like the referral agent of choice. Make sense?
Mhm.
Or travel advisor, is that correct, Lily?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Or the travel advisor of choice,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So, which leads us to our events. What kind of events can you do?
Easter egg
was-
hunt.
Yeah, that's good. I was going to ask you, Monique, how much did you budget for your cookie giveaway?
So I don't expect a lot this time. So I'm just paying for it. I don't think it cost me more than $100. But next year, when I do it and it's open to my entire sphere, I will get my sponsors to pay for it. And I ask them for $1 per box up to 100. So
Okay.
that would be a $400 to $500 budget because the boxes are $4 or $5.
hmm
And then if I need more, like let's say I was fancy like Toro Chopper White and I needed 400 boxes, I would have a different conversation with my sponsors because there's probably a lot of business in that. I know an agent who has 350 people on her database, if you will. She only works by referral and she did 78 transactions last year
Wow.
off of 350 people. So if I'm giving out 400 boxes, people are, my sponsors are getting paid.
hmm
So yeah.
And if they're not,
So
it's their own fault for not following up, you know?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So that's how I do the budgeting for that. Because I don't want to pay. It's not that I don't want to pay for it. I just got back from being away for 10 months and my volume isn't high. But I mean, if my volume was high enough and I could just write a check, I probably would. And I would, each year you get more data points. So like this year, let's say I give away 20 boxes. Well, I know my sphere normally shows up to an event between 40 to 50. So I would budget 50 plus the 20 for next year,
hmm
plus or
hmm
minus, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
you just okay. So events, right?
Mm.
You can invite to other people's events. You can do a home buyer seminar. You can do a home seller seminar. Because really you're trying to get the client you're most likely to get in your neighborhood, in your farm, is the seller.
Mhm.
Like it's very much a seller's like lead gen activity, I would say, unless you have a very high rental community or a lot of apartments, right? And then of course you have all your fun events. You can do an I love you latte, you can do a Easter egg hunt, you can do pictures with Santa, you can do ice cream social with the ice cream truck, cookie giveaway, pie giveaway. Like I'm going to open my pie giveaway up to the people who have already connected with me by then. I'm not going to put it on blast for the whole neighborhood. Um, But if I have your name, address, and phone number from the cookies or the ice cream or whatever, then you're going to be invited to the pie giveaway.
Mhm.
Just because I think a lot of people would sign up for pie, and maybe I will sign up for pies, but I will budget a certain number for people.
Mm. Well, I have to say the pie giveaway, and for Mother's Day, I give away tulips. So
Nice.
you can get a bunch of tulips, which is 10 stems, fairly inexpensively, and then I hand deliver them the weekend before Mother's Day. And I have to say those two events are my most favorite. I love going and dropping off the flowers at the door, even in COVID.
Nice. I like that, Denise. Denise, you should share your tulip event, your
Mhm.
tulip
I like
thing
that.
on the
Mhm.
group, in the group.
I
Okay.
like that.
I'll get last year's postcard, because we actually do a postcard and say, guess what, whatever. It's a very pretty postcard, just
Yeah.
reminding them that we'll be stopping by.
Nice.
Yeah.
So,
How
and
did
it's
you
That's
very,
find
cool.
out where the moms were in the neighborhood?
yeah, all the moms. Yeah, it's very inexpensive, and for me, it's very heart filling, because I get to knock on the door and have conversations 6 feet away. Maybe I haven't seen them in a year,
Yeah.
right?
So these are people in your sphere.
It is, but you can
Oh,
broaden it if you want it. If
Yeah.
you had a mom's group,
Yeah.
you could certainly broaden it. And that's where I'm at today, trying to
Yeah.
get outside of my sphere. But it's a very fun thing to do
Yeah.
if you have time.
Yeah. And growing your sphere, Denise, maybe those moms who got it last year, you ask them, like, who's a mom that you think should get it this year?
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
So they can give
or
you another mom. And then that's more, you can then touch them
mhm.
and
Say,
add to
hey,
your
this is for
database.
you because so and so said you needed flowers, and mention them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's a
that's a
good
way to
idea.
grow. It's a way to grow it. It's the bring a friend. But now you got their name, address, phone number, email, so
Mhm.
that you can make sure they're home or whatever.
Well, and I do have a client who has a sister. So I'm not going to give it just to Aaron. I'm going to make sure Amanda gets a
Right.
bunch of too.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. And you guys can tweak that if you're doing it in the farm, right? It could be a pickup that like the dad or the child could come pick it up to take to
Mhm.
mom or whatever.
Oh,
Or, you could just
wow.
do something like that
You
if
know
you're
what
not
that just
trying to
reminded
deliver.
me of?
Hmm.
There was an event that they did at a community center or something a couple of years ago where they had this little area where kids could buy stuff for their parents for Christmas. And it was just little junky stuff for $1. But if you invite the kids in the neighborhood to come and get tulips to give to their mom, you'd be the hero.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll
Yep.
have to think about that, because they really are very inexpensive. It doesn't add up to a lot.
And you know what? But space is limited or tulips are limited. You must RSVP,
Right.
and then that way you're not like, they don't know that the space cut out at 10 or 1,000. They have no idea. So, but they'll RSVP on time next year.
Mm-hmm.
Love
Mm-hmm.
it.
So yeah, so just think about like the things that you already know that you like and do, and see like, how can I expand that to go into my farm if I want to take it there, or what are new ideas I can do that would bring my farm and my sphere together, if that's where you want to take it. And so it's just a way to like really take our 7L strategies to help us get past just hoping, like spending all the money to do mailers and then hoping that somebody will pick us, but moving us up higher to be picked.
Mhm.
Because I'll tell you what, that day that girl told me that her agent was the best because she gave her a pie every year, I thought the
Mm.
girl was crazy. But guess what? People respond to that pie. So I'm
Mhm.
giving out pies,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
it's
it's
fun.
interesting. there's a lady that comes to my events, and she's always pointing out how her husband knows this realtor who's like been in my brokerage forever. And so when I did a thing at Christmas times, Amazon gift card giveaway, the thing was I had to call them all, because I said in order to qualify, to make sure I have correct information is what I was looking for. But I asked her the question that is in 7L of, if you had a friend or neighbor looking to buy or sell, kind of like, who would you recommend? And actually, so I finally had that kind of conversation with her. And even though she knows this agent, they don't have a relationship at all. But she comes and gets my free pies and stuff. So when she does have somebody, she'll send them my way.
Yeah. So yeah, so then the next thing is to move up to your one-on-one. So I'll make this easy. This is what your one-on-ones look like, right? A buyer client, a seller client, or a referred client, right? Or the business owners and or representatives that we talked about earlier, right? Because I'll put like, I do ask, like, are you a business owner or representative that would like to be added to our vendors we love list? Because then I can follow up with them for a one-on-one kind of thing, you know? And then there's going to be people who maybe just want to connect with you, like a fellow mom might want to connect for coffee, or maybe you have kids the same age and then there's a play date. Maybe you guys have a dog and you go walking your dogs, or I'm a runner, so they're like, oh, let's go for a run. You know, so they're not going to look like what you think a one-on-one may look like as of today. I had a lender in Mississippi I worked with. His one-on-one, he did photography was his hobby. So his one-on-ones, he would schedule free photo shoots
Mhm.
and he would talk to
Hmm.
them while he was taking their pictures. And that was his one-on-one, you
Yeah.
know. So I thought that was pretty clever.
Clever.
So yeah. And then so with all of this, when it comes to how much does it all cost? Everything comes with a cost. The mailings were going to be the most expensive, right? For postage and printing.
Mhm.
One way to save on printing or sorry, postage is if you mail through every door direct mailing, EDDM with the post office, it's like 19 or 20 cents a house. So that's one way. They have very specific rules. So I'd recommend that you read up on it, partner with a company that prints specifically with EDDM criteria, because obviously they're trying to get that business. But it is a way for, you know, if you're sending mass invitations or you want to send mass newsletters out, then then that's there. Your electronic communication, if you think about it, Facebook, Nextdoor, they take nothing but your time. Um, then if you do have like a newsletter or something that you do electronically, you pay for, you know, MailChimp, Constant Contact, ConvertKit, and that might be an annual membership. And it varies. Some of them vary on the number of people, but if it's under 1,000, let's say, you're probably looking at like $25, $30 a month, I think. But you can use it for newsletters for your sphere. You can use it for invitations. You can use it like I think you can actually do invitations and collect RSVPs and stuff like that. So, so yeah. Um, and then handwritten notes, obviously the cost of cards and postage, depending on what your strategy is with that. So if I was going to welcome all the new people every year, I would have to make sure I'd have to budget for like 130, right? Because that's about how many sell in my neighborhood or my farm. You know, somebody who has 20 deals would schedule 20. Now, if you're like, oh, I'm going to do home anniversaries, well, go look and see what that looks like, you know, kind of thing. I talked about Redx earlier and how much it costs for phone calls, and then your events, those can vary, right? Because if you do something really elaborate, that can cost you a lot. Something basic would be like fairly cheap, but then if you can get sponsors involved to help with all of the cost, you know, then you can, it could cost you nothing or very low. And they can help in all areas, right? I was talking at the beginning of the call for those who miss, Lily being a travel advisor, she can help. Like if she was like in my market, then she wanted to be partnered with me. One of the things she can do is help in the cost of these. It's to help call the neighbors, call to invite, be at the event, you know, help with the event. Then, oh, another one-on-one option is door knocking. And at that point, you might just be introducing yourself. You're not there to do the buy or sell like conversation. It's introducing yourself as, you know, I'm in the neighborhood, wanting to meet the neighbors kind of thing. I planning to do community events this year, and I just wanted to let you know. And here's a quarter sheet with the list of the events. You know, so now people are really going to know who you are because you came by the house. And of course, it'll have your information on it. So those are all like ways, ideas of merging traditional farming tactics with your 7L to bring these people into your sphere so that you can like um, gain their referrals through love, appreciation, and generosity. So
Mhm.
go be
So that
more.
event thing could be on a magnet that you give them too. That's branded to you. That'd be cool.
Hmm. Yep.
So what are the opinions of you ladies, door knocking in COVID times? Is it well received, or is it, what is the perception, if any of you have done it?
I've had good luck with it. I haven't done a ton of it, but you know, if they don't want to answer the door, they won't. But
Right.
people are nice when they answer it because they want to
Mhm.
talk to
Yeah.
people.
Hmm.
Well, that's true.
And
They
just
might
back
answer
up.
more. They might open the
Yeah.
door more.
Yeah. Just back up a little bit more. Have your mask on, I would say.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
and then when it comes to door knocking, also like mindset wise, remember, these are your neighbors.
Mhm.
You're not like, that's the perspective I come from because my farm will be my neighbors. I'm not going to the other side of town, you know, trying to do $1 million houses. Like, no, right here in my neighborhood is just fine. So these are your neighbors, you know, they're people. You're not there to sell them. You're there to, you're like really trying to build a community, like old school community where they like did stuff together. Like think Hallmark movie, Christmas time, where they all go out into the circle and they all light a tree and they all know the Christmas carol and they all look forward to it every year. Like, why can't it be your events that they're looking forward to? Why can't it be like, hey, we're doing a community day and we look forward to it every year? I'd like to get to the point where we have a couple parks where I can like host like a family picnic,
Mhm.
you know, or what else? Or like a big movie night when, you know, summer. But like those kinds of things that people can look forward to that for me, I don't have my neighborhood's not super sexy because it's not high dollar, but the community, like why can't we have the same thing that those communities have? Because nobody created them.
Yep.
And so if we create them, oh, I didn't mention for events and digital and electronic is a virtual events like virtual bingo, scavenger hunt, like that kind of stuff could be really cool in a neighborhood setting.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So even whenever I list out my events, I'll mix virtual events and in-person events on there so that people know that we are COVID friendly.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's all I got for you guys. Any questions, any ideas that came up that were sparked that you think you'll try? But if you're gonna farm, have a plan that goes beyond 1 month.
Mhm.
You
You
know,
have to
have
commit to
it
the long
be,
haul.
yeah, multiple layers, Like have these layers. Like, do you have to do everything? I probably am not going to do like the advertising level, right? But I am going to, my goal is to get to the point where I'm sending out that monthly newsletter,
Mhm.
and so at a minimum, like, once a month, right? But that can include my invitations or, upcoming things. And then if you can get the electronic communication, like some of this stuff will eventually like run itself. It's just going to take time to get those people in there. I've even thought so much as like I have for my part of the neighborhood, there's a very busy like entrance. And I thought as much as being like National Cookie Day, like put together like a thing that says like our community, like Facebook, like how they can join the Facebook group, how they can join next door with like my information. And then passing out, like staple it to like some Oreos and passing it out on Cookie Day, like as they come through the light, but just whatever it takes to get them into my community.
Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me of an idea that I've been pondering, and see what you guys think of this. So there's new
Hold on a
neighbors.
second, Sherry. If anybody else needs to go for another meeting, that's cool. We're done, but Sherry's going to share ideas. Bye,
I
Greta.
do. Thank you, guys.
Bye, Greta. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, so there's new neighborhoods by where I live that are going up, and those people are move-up buyers. And so what I thought would be super cool is to be kind of sort of where they're definitely driving to that neighborhood to go look at those homes. And if I can position myself somewhere just outside there with like a sign that says free Girl Scout cookies or something, and capture their information before they've gone there, maybe I can at least get the south side of their house. But I don't know, is that really dumb, or do they get in trouble for
So
doing that?
they are moving from one house to another. They're moving up to this community.
They'd be moving up to the community, so they're gonna have a house. I mean, like, this is $900,000 homes. They're moving up. And so
Okay.
they need to sell a house. And these a lot of these builders don't want to deal with the sell side, and they don't necessarily give you the referral. So, but if I can capture that person coming in to the neighborhood,
Yeah.
go look at the
It's a
houses.
good idea.
So
Thank
does that neighborhood have a community group already on Facebook?
Oh, good point. It's brand spanking new. I bet you it doesn't.
Created.
But,
And then so when people go searching for it,
mhm,
and if they join it,
mhm. Okay. Well, they want to, if they're not living there yet,
but they're searching.
they're searching for it. Okay.
So if they come across and they're like, they want to know more about it, right? Because it's a developing community, right?
It is.
So there's nothing. Hold on, Draga. There's nothing stopping you from creating the group. Let's say it's called like Norfolk Estates,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So now you have the Norfolk Estates community,
Mhm.
right, that you've created.
Mhm.
And it's for people looking to buy and sell there, right?
Yep.
So you can go over there and you can go to the model home. You can take video. You can take pictures. You can go. I post pictures of the house next door all the time, new construction in my area. You can go do that and you can become the expert on it because there's only going to be so many models, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Love it.
so if you're doing all that in that group and you're like, hey, and be upfront with them and be like, this is how it works. If you go in there by yourself, they're going to make the deal, but they don't have your best interest.
Mhm.
I can represent you. And then, if you already have an agent, or if you don't have an agent, I can represent you on the buy and the sell if you have a house to sell. So,
Mhm.
and then like the description could be like people looking to move, neighbors and people looking to move to the area, move to that community.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, love it.
But yeah, no, I mean, as long as you're on public property, like the sidewalk,
Yeah.
You
That's
could do
what I
that.
thought. So, okay. So my little cookie thing could have a flyer on it to say join the neighborhood to learn more about it too. The Facebook group. we did.
Find us on Facebook. You could have a sign that says find us on Facebook group and then put the group name. Like
Yeah.
so. Um so yeah.
So
But
what if
Draga, the
another
way
agent,
hold on a second, Mary Ellen.
Yeah.
Draga, the answer to your question, she asked the community, how do you find out if a community has a Facebook group? Yeah, you just Google it, and like mine is actually based for the whole zip code because it's kind of small. So it's the 23509 Norfolk neighbors, I think. I don't know, Tidewater neighbors, that's what it is. So it's our zip code. So you probably wouldn't find it if you looked up like I live in Fairmont Park. It's my small community within the zip code. So if you looked up Fairmont Park, you might not find it. But if you looked up the zip code, you would. So it's just a matter of just doing some quick little Facebook searches, but it would come up because I put it in the description, all of the neighborhood. There's 5 neighborhoods. So I put all 5 neighborhoods in there. So
Mhm.
that's how you would find it. Mary Ellen, what's your question?
for farming, building communities, all around here, they seem to have an inn with a realtor already, you know, on their signs and stuff. Are you saying go like ahead of that and just be the person? I mean, do you know what I mean? Like sometimes say it's Wildwood Community, and
They have the
there'll be
agent,
like
they
a
have the agents, they have the seller agent.
Mhm.
right.
They do not have the buyer's agent.
Right. And they're going to want to try and be the buyer agent too, but they're not in that best interest of that buyer. So if I can capture the buyer,
Right,
and then they
Yeah.
have a house to sell because these are move up buyers. you know,
right.
so I could get some business out of the deal.
So the
Yeah.
agent of record wouldn't give you a hard time about that, you don't think? Or you just kind of just do it and
Just that's what I
They
was wondering.
can't-
I just do it if I'm on
they
public
can't-
property.
Yeah, if she's on public property, they can't. She's not out there advertising that she works for them.
right. Okay.
She's just on a sidewalk that's public property.
And
she's
I'm not
giving
even
away-
advertising trying to sell their properties. I just
and
strategically
giving them
place
Girl Scout
myself.
cookies.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then think about farming long term, right? So, I don't know, like when you guys join a group, the person who spends the most time and energy with you at first is like your best friend forever. Like 3 years later, you're like, yeah, I remember her. I remember him. He was so nice to me on my first day at this networking group.
Mhm.
And so the people who get in with them first and make them feel included and welcome, right? So now if Sherry has this group for that neighborhood because the builder didn't set up the Facebook group,
Mhm.
right? When it's time to sell, if she continues to nurture that group, because eventually all the homes are going to be built,
Yeah.
right? And then she can be like, well, another one is coming. Who do you know? Who do you
Mm.
want to move into our neighborhood?
Mhm.
Right? So let's
Yeah, I
7L
like it.
that. Let's 7L this, right? So
Mm.
starting at the beginning of the year, she has this group. She has one person come to her pie day the first year, but the next year she has 10 from the community.
I love it. I can
Right.
do that.
So it's that's definitely a long-term approach. But as these houses start to turn later in her career, like the people I emailed you, we're a high military community. A percentage of those people I sent cards to this weekend will be moving in 3 years.
Right.
But I got them now. I didn't wait till year 3 when they're ready to buy. So they could probably come to a home seller seminar
Right.
before that in year 2 because they already know that they're leaving.
Right. Yeah, I like that.
So I think that and then if you're doing housewarming parties
Mhm.
in the neighborhood and you invite them, if you do it and you layer it, it works.
Mhm.
You do
But
a
if you don't
community
do it,
housewarming party, like
you could,
nice
but hold
weather.
up, remember
Really,
This is about, let's not forget to put the buyer interest above our own,
right,
right? So
right,
this
right,
is
right. Yeah.
their housewarming party, not our block party. But you could do a block party later,
Yep.
once a year or something. But the housewarming party is they're bringing their friends and their family
Mhm. Right.
to
That's
warm their house,
different. A different thing. Yeah.
So yeah, so if you're doing that, then you're constantly growing your spirit. You honestly probably would not have to go outside of let's take an established community that has 500 homes. Like if you did this stuff for these 500 people, you wouldn't probably have to go outside
Mm.
of those activities for
Mhm.
anything after I would say after your first year, you probably wouldn't have to,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because people would move in and they'll be like, "Are you on the list?
Yeah.
Like, are you on
Yeah.
the list?" Then they'll be like, "How do I get on the list?"
That's right.
Yeah. You want to be the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got to get back in with my neighbors. I blew it. I'll tell you, we had a Facebook group and I took over the Facebook group and turned it into, like became, the admins kicked them out and and then changed the rules, just kind of like pulled a fast one on them, which wasn't good that I did that. It's terrible I did that. But I made some people really mad. And then they started their own little group. And so now we have two groups for our neighborhood of like 200 homes. And so I don't know how many people are in that other group. And well, I don't know who's in that other group that's still, mad at me versus the other one. So I'm like, well, do I just try and like target the ones that stayed in the group and, sweeten the deal and invite them to events, and then other people can show up and find out about it, and then they start coming back to thinking I'm a good person again? I don't know.
Well, the thing is you're not going to get the whole neighborhood, right?
No, I'm not.
So if you get half of them, it's cool.
Yeah. So start
And
with
then,
them.
like, if they're referring you, you're too busy to worry about the half that didn't like you.
Yeah, that's true.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so, like, we don't have to chase people. We don't have to get them all. Like
Yeah.
I said, that girl had 350 people.
Mhm.
Another guy, he has a list of, I think his was under 150, he said, and he got 19 deals.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Okay. Love it. I'm glad I said that because it's been weighing on my heart. Like I feel like I really blew it in my neighborhood. But you're
Yeah.
right. I don't need.
Well,
They're not all gonna like me anyway.
just love on them.
Mhm.
Take the ones that are in there
Yeah.
and continue to grow the group with like whatever. Because does it have to remain a neighborhood group? Is that what it is?
It is a neighborhood group. But
Okay.
I also have a group that's Maple Grove group, and so I can invite them to that because I have like 1,200 people in that group.
Yeah, so that's what I would do. So you have the two groups, right?
Mhm.
But let's say you're doing the ice cream social, right?
Mhm.
And it's open to Maple Grove. It's open to these people, but you can like just don't be like, hey, you guys are invited to the Maple Grove and just put a link. Be like, well, maybe you go as far as to be like, hey, we want to invite you to our upcoming events. Like, what's your information? Send a private message to each of the members,
Mhm.
kind of thing, to be like, whatever. Same with the Pie Day, right?
Yep.
Invite them and then move them up
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
ambassadors and champions
Yep.
and
Love it.
clients.
Mhm.
But yeah, so
Lots of food for thought.
yeah.
Awesome. This
Yeah.
has been awesome. Thank you so much, Monique, for putting
Thank you
this
guys
together.
for participating.
Yeah. Thanks. It was
I
great.
appreciate people who communicate.
Now we have to implement.
That's right.
Yeah, you do. And you know what, Mary Ellen, because I know Sherry's been around. We've been around for a minute and you're fairly new. Is just like, don't try to implement it all at one time.
Yeah.
Make a plan that says, okay, throughout this year, I'm going to phase into this. And this is what's happening in March, and then in April, and in May, and in June.
Yeah.
And then next year you'll have a whole system built.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The calls today that we had to do for March Magic were really great. I've got a couple one-on-ones planned already.
Nice.
And yeah, it was